Do you have any other questions for us?
Yeah, I do. So bullying and teasing, one of the things that I saw in some research that I was looking at was that if you thought that bullying and teasing was horrible and nobody should ever treat you badly, that you would get very upset about being bullied or teased. But there are some people in some cultures where they just figure that's normal, that some bullying and teasing is normal, and so it's nothing to get really upset about. And so you can put up with being teased or bullied a little bit and not get really upset about it.
Mr. Mason.
Yeah.
When it's bullying, you have to know what is bullying. Because bullying is one-sided. Well, just boys playing and having fun, like doing tackle kind of game. It is just playing because they're both doing it equally. Bullying is when you do it one person. And it's important to know that. I think people should judge bullying based on if it's one person or two person too. Like if you were also doing the same to them, then it's not bullying, it's just playing and kind of do play fights.
So did you have trouble with being bullied?
I did. At kindergarten. At class, they all were saying, "Ew, Jacob's gross. I don't want to sit next to him. Get him away from me. Ew."
Why did they say that?
I don't know.
Do you still not know?
No, I still don't know. And with stuff like that, I've developed a hard skin to it. I was basically just ignoring it, and when I just forgot as soon as possible. So that's how I dealt with it. The only problem with that is that it didn't stop. It didn't stop. And it could have escalated, maybe.
Did you try telling the teacher?
I did, but the teachers really didn't do anything.
Mm-hmm.
They're just ignoring me because I kept saying it. It's like I was just trying to and I don't have a good memory of names, so it's kind of hard to tell on someone, especially when you can't remember their name for a first meet. Like what happened was, when some kid was being mean to me, I said, "Excuse me, you're being mean, I'm going to tell on you." Then, what happened, then he asked, "What's your name?" Or stands. That kind of ruins the whole point.
Do you want to know why I think that you got picked on?
Because they just don't say it, or say something like, "My name is something else random." Why?
I think you got picked on because you did a few things just a little bit differently, and you sounded a little bit different when you talked. And so the other kids, that was unexpected for them, and so they were surprised and confused, and it made them have weird or uncomfortable thoughts about you.
Oh.
And it's also true that, especially with boys, but both boys and girls, it's kind of a cruel world out there. I think that we get raised hearing mostly what we're doing wrong or negative things for criticism, even if we're neurotypical.
What does that mean?
It means basically your average person. You don't have social problems or asocial skill things.
Yeah, it means your brain is neurologically typical.
Okay.
It doesn't have like autism. So adult people who have Aspergers syndrome, sometimes they call themselves Aspies, and they call the other people that are not Aspies neurotypicals. And what's kind of funny is they have a saying about neurotypicals. They say they just don't get it. It's funny because that's what neurotypical people say about kids with Asperger's syndrome when it comes to socializing.
They just don't get it.
Yeah. So I was reading this book, Thinking in Pictures by Temple Grandin, and she says that what was really difficult for her is she tries to figure out social things intellectually by thinking and using logic, and other people make their decisions based on complex emotions and intuitions. And so that's just, it's a very different style of problem solving.
For me, I do it logically, usually after the fact. I do it just intuition, right? Doing what I think is right just at the first time. Then afterwards I go over it. But there's one big thing I have. I get stressed out kind of easily. I'm kind of overwhelmed way more easily than most people.
Yeah, so I think some of the things about schools that could be different. I think having places to hide would be a good idea.
Yeah.
Like maybe a place that has like a little window or something, or you flip a switch that shows that you're in there, so they know where you are, but you don't have to see them.
Right.
You get to get away from everybody for a while.
Well, I have that thing at my school.
You do?
Yeah. I have a social skills counselor in my school, and if I ask my teacher, I'm allowed to go to her room when I'm stressed out.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that is probably going to be kind of useful when I'm stressed out. Because sometimes when I get stressed out, I start crying for some reason.
And that's
It's a
even
bodily
worse, right?
response.
And then everybody sees you crying, and that makes it worse, and then you cry more.
Yeah, it makes it worse. So then they get annoyed with me, and they don't want to be my friend as much. And it just is a vicious cycle.
Yeah, what happened for me was a lot in both middle school and 9th grade is that a lot of things would just culminate a lot. All the actions people do would ruminate, and it just built up so much. I'd see people doing these things like, I remember when Jake talked about the difference between bullying and teasing, like with two people. What happened for me was, it wasn't just with two people, it was an entire group, because at lunch people had a group of friends, and what happened was, they were teasing each other a lot and teasing me, but I just didn't see how it was funny, and I just started to react I get a bit stressed out because of that, and just kept on coming on and coming on. And to be honest, it just made me more and more stressed out that these were the people the only people at school I felt like I could really go to as a friend. But over time, it just got to where I started going to another table and just even crying in the corner at some instances. It was just a really bad time and place.
Yeah, I understand how you feel. Well, there's something that happens with me sometimes. It's that I found out with bullies, there's one thing I can do that's kind of a short-term solution. Be near a teacher during recess, like on the swings where the teachers are nearby. Because you're in motion and you could easily hurt them, they don't want to be next to you. And if you're near a teacher, then if they see if the teacher sees what they're doing, they could get in trouble. And they don't want that to happen. So they don't go near teachers.
Well, now it's a lot different than it was before. Like I said before, up to 9th grade, I was at a different public school, but ever since I started 10th grade, I started to go to a different charter school, and ever since then, things have been more or less a lot more looking up for me. Because when I got to that charter school, there was one thing I started thinking right when I got there, and it was just something
What was that?
It was just something that I promised because of everything that happened in the years before. One thing I just wanted to do, don't be miserable this year. That was one goal I wanted to keep in mind. But over time, everything just started getting a bit worse over time. It was fine the first couple months. There were a few episodes where I would break down, but that was only near the beginning of the year. After a while, near January, I just started seeing everything happening that was going to be similar. And I thought, if this is what's going to happen, then something has to change. And before that, I was just hanging out with a lot of people who were in my grade when I was in 10th grade. But I decided, you know what, why not? I think I decided to go over and spend some time with some of the 9th graders, and I found out that I could make a few new friends who overall I shared a lot of common bonds with, and they didn't end up doing much teasing or anything, or making fun of people. At least not as much. And overall, they based their decisions not on status quo or anything like that, but more on logic. And after that happened, I just started to wonder. I just started to get interested in the human mind, and I started studying it overall.
Huh, neat.
I started to, get faith in people back again, and that was something I hadn't had for a long time.
So making friends with those 9th graders was huge.
Yeah, we still hang out a lot. In fact, every Saturday we come over to my place to hang out, and we've had a couple new people. We've had another person to the group, and it's just been a much better experience overall.
Oh, neat.
So
Well,
that's
for me,
So
they're saying
your
that
efforts to make friends and being brave and giving that a try made the difference between being miserable in school for 10 years
when I came back
and
to
doing well and kind of enjoying it now?
Yeah, and Jake, I know you have something that you want to say, but there's one point I'd like to make. It's that one thing that I never really could figure out is that a lot of people said that I could make things so much better at school on my own, but when I even asked my mom about this stuff, she said that I would have to, I would say, well, they just don't relate to me. I try to give a little and focus on what they want to say, but they just can't relate back. And she often said, well, you're going to have to give 90-10 in comparison. But what happened later was, after I left that school, I found that I was able to find people who I could just be with and give a little, get a little, 50-50. And it just made me think, if I stayed there, would I really have been as happy as I could have been now? And I'm not really sure.
Well, for me, they're saying that happened. I went from one school to another school, then back to the first one. And when I went back to the first one, I decided to go back a grade for the physical things. And I found it really helped me with social too. Because the kids were younger, and I have been practicing with younger kids, playing with my sister's friends. So I got better at social skills, then I went back a grade, and I made a lot of new friends.
You have friends at school now?
Yeah, I used to have only like one friend, and that is like for one day. They said, hey, wanna be friends? Wanna play on the playground? Then for one day, they do it, and they said, wanna play again tomorrow? Then tomorrow, when I come back to play with them, they go, what? I never said that. Why would I say that?
I'm confused.
Yeah, exactly. Me too.
I'm real confused when people make an agreement to do something and then they don't do what they agreed to do.
Yeah.
I get a little stuck on that.
Yeah, that is just a huge thing for me. And I know I've been going a bit off the trail recently, but I just want to say that for me it got so bad that I started to bring a recording device to school so I could actually record people and what they say so I could keep it on record, because before that there was just no other way to prove it.
Well, for me, saying like that happened. My mom didn't really know about it. She knew I was getting bullied, but she didn't know how strongly. Until one day she took me into class in first grade. She took me into my class and was bringing me a class. Then she saw immediately, as soon as I came through the door, she saw what happened with the kids. They suddenly were saying mean things to me. And then that's when we really started to try to stop it. Well, earlier, she didn't really know that it was important, because it sounded like it was just a small amount of bullying. But it really was like the whole class was being mean.
Yeah, that's I'm not exactly sure what words I'm trying to find here.
It would be very hard to deal with.
Yeah, when
Be more than
she
overwhelming.
thought it was more like one kid, or
Yeah.
like a small group of like 5 kids, but it was more like 20 kids.
Yeah, it's not just like a small group who are focusing on bullying people, it's like an entire class who just think that that's the norm.
So that's another thing I get hung up on, is why do people do things that are wrong? And then why a lot of times will they not correct or admit it? How does it work when you try to, how does it work, Leo, when you try to correct the teacher? When you catch the teacher having done something wrong? How does that work out?
Well, like wrong as in saying a false statement, or like being mean?
Either one, because I know you've had some experience.
Oh,
Well, for me, when the teacher does a false statement, I raise my hand like normal and tell her what she said and what I know it is.
How's that go?
Usually pretty good, because don't say like, I say it like, excuse me, Mrs. Blank, you're kind of, that's actually not true. I did the math perfectly. I did the math over and over again, and it always came out to this. Could you try it one more time? And when she redid it, it was right. Same with my mom. When I know where one thing is, and she always, I'm usually right because of how good my intuition is.